leader's style could be your worst career move. Now, before we get into this, I just want to let you know, as always, that you can, if you've got any questions, please drop them in the comments. And you can always DM me your questions as well. And here's the important part of today. I am going to share with you why copying or mirroring a leadership style of other leaders that you see that are successful in your organization could really be the worst career move that you make, as well as this is for you if you're a woman in leadership and you might be experiencing yourself finding trying to figure out how can you really fit in effectively within either a new environment or within your new role, especially if you've been promoted into a next level leadership position with the organization. There's always a time of like, ooh, I don't know how I'm going to find my way and fit into this, which often will lead to you or women choosing other women. I've done this myself, but I've also seen other women do this as well, is to match the way that they lead, the leadership style, even their communication around similarly to what they have seen other leaders do that they deem to be successful in their roles. So before we get into that, I would just also like to give you the opportunity to book a 30-minute complimentary leadership audit call with me. There are always limited spaces every week available for that. So before you think, oh, well, I'll catch the next week or another time, please realize that they fill up very quickly and they are usually filled after the first day or two of the week. So you want to get your 30-minute session and then comment audit below or DM me audit, and we will touch base and get you in for a 30-minute leadership audit. So let's dive into this topic today, because here's something that I've seen happen so often. So you might be in a situation where, for example, you're finding yourself in a really almost like a toxic work environment where you might be facing a lot of resistance from colleagues or other leaders around the strategies or the initiatives that you want to bring into the company as a way to move forward with your own team. You might be finding yourself being constantly criticized or critiqued by even your manager or other colleagues and excluded from decision making, which is all undermining your authority and your role as a leader. Now, as what I have seen oftentimes in this case is some of the mistakes that are being made is you might be finding yourself really wanting to prioritize team cohesiveness and keeping the team happy, your colleagues happy, your manager happy, even though you're not addressing the root cause of it in the sense of being the one that's excluded or that other people are saying negative things about you. Now, one of those things that I've seen a lot of women do is then they decide, well, okay, how I'm leading or how I'm communicating or who I am in this role right now doesn't match with what is needed in the situation, and evidently is more successful for other people that you see within the organizations and other leaders. So you decide to then switch up your leadership style. Now, I know last week I talked a little bit about how to be more authoritative, even when that's not your style. So I want to give a little bit of a disclaimer here in the sense that, yes, that is a really great training to watch as to how you can adjust your style when the situation calls for it. But here I'm talking about specifically about adjusting your style in such a way that it is that you're always mirroring somebody else's style and it isn't necessarily just situational or person specific. So what you do is when you find yourself copying or mirroring the behavior, the characteristics, the way of speaking, communication, the actions of other leaders that you see around you that are seem to be more successful than you, you're actually setting yourself up to fail in a sense, because that's not really going to get you that respect and authority that you were wanting to obtain by adjusting your leadership style and adjusting it in such a way that it isn't your own. Now, this is where think about it as, for example, one of the ways to consider that why copying other leaders' style and leadership style could be your career's worst move is because think of it like you're training for a marathon, that you decided to just copy the training schedule, and not even the training schedule. It's just like you just thought, okay, well, I can see that they're running every morning at 6 o'clock. So you've decided that, okay, that successful marathoner is running every day at 6 o'clock. So if I run at 6 o'clock, I can be successful at that marathon as well. Similarly, you might have also had that experience of, oh, you know what, you saw a friend of yours who was really who had lost weight, gotten healthy, and you thought like, hey, you know what? Who hasn't done this? I will be the first to admit I've done it. But you start going like, hey, what have you been doing? And how did you get there? Like, what are you eating? What are like, are you exercising? What's going on? And you take the advice of what they're doing and you implement it yourself, only to see that you're not getting the results that you want in terms of getting healthy. Now, the same thing happens when you are trying to copy someone else's leadership style and applying it in your own role, in your own situation, is it just doesn't work. So, what do successful leaders and successful women leaders do rather than adjusting, mirroring, and copying their leaders, other successful leaders, is they get very clear on a number of different specifics. And one of these I'm going to share with you today, and it's all based off of the leadership compass. So this is my leadership compass from within my leadership edge formula. And what happens within the leadership compass, this is one of those components that we talk about when it comes to leadership, is values. So, what are the values, the core values that you hold for yourself? The reason that the core values are so important, and I'm just going to say, drop in the comments if you've got a question or if there's something that you'd like to know. And as always, you can DM me with your questions as well. But the core, once you are very clear on your core values, it also helps you determine, well, what are the behaviors that I then need to demonstrate for that. So, for example, if you're finding yourself in an organization that is highly critical or that isn't including you in decision making, or that is really undermining your authority on different levels, like maybe there's a colleague that isn't letting go of a project, or it could also be that there is someone that's trying to, kind of circumvent you by going directly to a client rather than going through you because you're the person that's in charge of that client. Well, if that is occurring, then yes, could you copy someone else's behavior? Sure, of course. You could copy their actions and then either really call them out on it, or you just kind of really take a really hard stance. Maybe. Here's the thing though, when you are understanding your own core values and how you want to lead, it means that you are going to behave in a way that is aligned with you, but also doesn't cost you them like even more energy. Because when you're trying to mirror or copy someone else's leadership style, it is going to cost you an enormous amount of energy to keep that up, which more often than not, I have seen lead to like the symptoms of burnout, of not being able to finish your work, not being at the level of performance that you're used to, and not being able to be present when you get home in the evening. So, what do all successful women leaders do when they're not copying other leaders' leadership styles? They, first of all, and again, I'm going to pull this up here. This is the leadership compass. This is within my leadership edge formula. I think you can hopefully, because I can see it's brought out a lot. But one of those, you see, one of the components here is values. So that's the values that we're talking about today. And when we talk about, when you're very clear on your core values, what this helps is to determine what are my actions and what are my behaviors going forward. And especially if you're in a more environment that is more toxic and you are struggling within that environment, it is also the core values that are going to help you create a decision or come to a decision as to what is the next best step for me to do today. Now, I want to just give this moment as a also a little bit of a reminder, or if you're finding like I want to go more in depth with this, because yeah, great, I have an idea of what needs to be done, but I don't know how to apply it right now. Then this is your chance to DM me the word audit and take a minute and um, take 30 minutes, and we have a complimentary leadership audit where we walk through all the different part components of your leadership, which include your leadership presence, which include things like your communication, how are you showing up, even we touch on your values, for example, and then you walk away with a personalized strategy from me as to how do you can you create or how can you lead the way that you want to lead and be successful at the same time. So if that is something that you're interested in and you want to grab one of the limited spots that are available this week, then please DM me audit or even comment below with the word audit, and I will make sure that you are get into my calendar this week. So look forward to hearing and speaking to you. And as always, if you've got questions or comments, you can drop them below or DM me and ask your questions, and I'm happy to answer those there. Thank you so much for listening. And a last little tidbit here, remember that copying other leaders' leadership style could really be your career's worst move because you don't understand the components that have made that person successful, or even applying and doing the same actions does not lead to the same outcome for you. It's like watching someone who runs a marathon run by your house every morning at 6 o'clock, thinking, hey, that's what's going to make me successful. If I can just run at 6 o'clock in the morning, I will successfully run a marathon. And we all know that just isn't the case. So, what do you do instead? You get really clear on your core values and the behaviors that belong with those core values, and then start acting from them. So that is in a nutshell the topic of today, of like why copying others leadership style could be your worst career move, as well as what you can do to resolve that. So if that is you and you are ready to change the script on that and change it in a way that is that so powerfully, then I want you to take the opportunity to DM me audit and book in a 30-minute complimentary audit call with me, and we will make a personalized strategy plan for you. How do you lead how you want to be, how you want to lead in a way that you are going to be successful, as well as being creating a sustainable success both personally as well as professionally. All right. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you again on Friday.